Hey, and we're back with another episode of Before You Buy, that show where we give you some straight-up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. As usual, it's me, Jake Baldino, and today we're talking about Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn. This is an action-adventure game that's been in the works for a bit. I believe it was delayed, but now it's out this week. And it's a good old-fashioned video game, just like a single-player adventure, and it's a hybrid, like of a dash of Souls and something like God of War with the combat feel. The kind of generic title should tell you straight away, though, it's definitely forgettable from a story and main character standpoint, but it's got some decent gameplay chops, where I personally still had fun playing through it. I went in not expecting much, but it satisfied my gamer lizard brain, if that makes sense. Let me explain. And before we do keep going, just know that we've been playing a review copy on PS5. That's the footage you see running here. It's in a performance mode option, and this video is spoiler-free. So Flintlock is set in a world that's kind of like The Order 1886 and Dungeons & Dragons fantasy mixed together with a bunch of video game stuff. Gunpowder is a main resource, soldiers in silly hats and pants and muskets fight magical cult knights, zombies, and gods. This world is pretty much torn apart after some gods escape, and you, a soldier named Nor, strikes out on a quest after your crew is pretty much wiped out at the start of the game by a big evil god creature. Very quickly, you meet and team up with a friendly god that kind of looks like a little magical teleporting fox named Enki, and he gives you special powers. So while I had fun playing the game, the story and the character stuff didn't really do it for me. Nor, as a main character, is a bit dull. While I liked her voice acting, the game just takes too long to unfurl her character details, and deep into the game I was already a bit checked out on here. The quest itself, too, felt a little murky to me at first. Like, it starts off rather abruptly, and then for a while it feels like you're just going through the motions with little character or story motivation other than go here. This is the stuff I will ultimately forget and move on from pretty quickly. You might as well, I don't know, but I will say, having said all that, what I do respect is that they went for it here. There are interesting factions, towns, costumes, creatures, and bits of lore that do feel kind of cool. They're just surrounded by other elements that feel more visually generic, like some of the earlier areas and enemy types. So, to use the hackneyed phrase, man, I'm sorry, but it's a mixed bag. But the name of the game is Combat and Exploration, and I enjoyed most of that. It's not out of this world innovative or over the top or super precise, but it is engaging and well thought out, with a fair bit of challenge and some very good level and area design that kept me poking around for loot and secrets and optional enemy encounters. The area designs are very messy, yes, but also just have a lot of verticality and hidden nooks and crannies that I just liked. It's an open-ended world, less of an open world feel and more like a complex series of levels and pathways. And it's structured a little bit like a Souls-like. There's Estus flasks for healing, there's a bonfire system where you find them, you rest at them, and then enemies reset and you can level up there. If you die, you lose all your souls and you gotta go find them again. But the currency here is called reputation, and it's got a fun spin. So you collect reputation in-game by killing stuff and progressing. And you can spend this currency on a skill tree. It seems simple enough. The game rewards you for mixing it up in combat, though. So the more successful and more varied you are in fights, the more reputation you'll gain because a little bonus multiplier on the side of the screen starts ticking up. But it disappears if you're hit. So at any point when you gain rep and you have that multiplier going up, you can press a button on, like, say, the D-pad and cash it in with that bonus percentage multiplier for a little extra. And it's satisfying to lock that in after, like, a big fight or right before you get your ass beat, like, just timing it right. It's a really good little gamble. It's like a little risk-reward meta that just kind of enabled me to pay attention a little bit more moment to moment and not just mindlessly hacking and slashing. So combat itself works like this. You have a melee weapon, typically an axe, as well as a pistol with only a few shots. Melee strikes are your main ways to kill enemies up close, and doing so recharges your shots. So your gun can actually be used in a variety of different ways as the game progresses, but the main core thing is that it's a good attack, but also an enemy attack interrupt. There's also a block button, but you can only block standard attacks. You can also parry, opening up enemies for a pretty stylish counterattack that is pretty satisfying to pull off. Enemies have a stance meter that can be whittled down to then stagger an enemy, opening them up to a big attack, and you can whittle that down by using Enki. Enki, the little magic guy, also has ultimate magic attacks that you can occasionally use, and you discover more as you progress. You can also get some throwables and a long-range musket, as well as a few other surprise long-range weapons I won't spoil, but these long-range weapons need to be used carefully. And they have a Gears of War style active reload mechanic for bonuses. Get a perfect headshot, and you get like a Max Payne style slow-mo bullet camera. If you can't tell, yes, this game throws a lot of different stuff at you. It's a mishmash. It's a mess. And it certainly gets messy in fights. It doesn't always look impressive. I probably overuse the dodge roll a lot, and sometimes the lock-on screws you over, but it's a fairly fun mess that can occasionally be challenging. There's also a lot of platforming, with double jumps, air dashes, and the ability to kind of like zip fly to certain points. You're doing a lot of jumping and flipping and climbing during your exploring, and it's all actually pretty good, except for a finicky ledge grab that doesn't always feel quite right. The character, after a double jump, just never quite satisfyingly clings to a ledge correctly. Like, it always feels awkward and unpredictable, and not in a difficulty way, but in just a kind of half-baked way. And I point that out because, again, you're going to be doing a lot of jumping and platforming, and sometimes I'd miss a ledge for no good reason other than the game just, like, I guess not being in the mood for it at that moment. And I found that to be sometimes frustrating. Still, all of this gameplay stuff, problems and all, kept me playing. Again, it's all chaotic, it's not the most precise, but it works. I always just like coming into a new area and assessing, like seeing what kind of snipers are positioned, or like a weird big zombie monster I gotta take care of first, or getting surprised jump scared by a hidden enemy I didn't see coming. I love just like clearing out an area, or really figuring out the intricacies of an area. That's the satisfying stuff here. I really wanted to earn reputation points, so I kept working hard at getting my multipliers up. And it helps that I really wanted to earn more because the game just has a good, simple action RPG skill tree with 3 different tiers to buy into, focusing on melee, gunplay, or magic. A majority of the things you buy into are really rewarding and make substantial differences. That's what I like about a good skill tree. You got stuff like the ability to counteract with your pistol instead of melee, a big downward blast, more ways to stun an enemy, and some cool stuff I won't spoil that was just fun to discover and use. And it's steep, I will say. Like, it takes a while to chew through it all. The currency required is a lot for unlocks as it goes up. So I found myself wanting to take on little simple side quests, not only to find some decent loot, but to just get more of this currency to get more abilities. That, to me, that carrot on a stick feels right. It feels well done, and that's a mission accomplished. That's the stuff that scratches that lizard gamer brain instinct in me. And there is good gear to venture out off the main path and find, pauldrons, helmets, gauntlets, weapons, and cosmetic outfits. All of it looks really cool, especially as soon as you start covering up the starting outfit. But all of the main gear has either important RPG stats or like a game-changing feature, meaning I really just found what worked best for me, and I stuck with it for a majority of the game, like a shoulder piece that slows down time if I get a perfect dodge. Like, stuff like that I found crucial because I relied so much on dodges. So you have a little bit of customization, but you might end up like me and you find what you like, whether it's a weapon or gear, and just stick with that. One problem was that upgrading your weapons and gear requires gathering materials out in the world, which is fine, click on wood, click on stone, stuff like that, but it also requires a shit ton of this reputation currency. It was kind of a buzzkill, as you find weapons in the world, but there's really a focus on finding your mains and then steadily upgrading them. Like I said, it just felt like it got in the way of my progress of unlocking cool abilities, because I wanted to upgrade my stuff, but I really would have rather have spent that reputation on getting the more cool game-changing abilities. you know? There's always a balance to stuff like this, but I felt like it was a bit much. I could have used like another currency or collectible. My other issue with the game is that it can be a bit repetitive. From the things you do to progress to just a lot of the same type of stuff in the first few hours, you know, just like endless zombies and caves, that it might bore some types of players. And that's a shame because the game opens up some cool and more varied locations further in that are way more interesting than the first few hours. But ultimately, for me, Flintlock fills that middle tier void, that AA kind of flawed, messed up game void. You know, it's not the next massive budget AAA game. It's just a flawed, mixed up, old-fashioned video game adventure like in Alex or Evil West or Banisher's Ghosts of New Eden more recently, or Atlas Fallen. Although I like this way more than Atlas Fallen, I gotta say that. But, you know, if you keep your expectations in check, you might have a good, flawed time. It's a lower priced game. It's also on Game Pass, and I'd say maybe check it out if you're into these weirder adventures whenever there's downtime, or I don't know, if the price is right for you. It should take you like 20 hours to see most of it. But hey, anyway, that's a before you buy. You know how this goes by now. I give you some pros, some cons, you know, the good and the bad, and my personal opinion, and now I want to hear yours down in the comments. This game isn't out quite yet, but I want to know if it was on your radar. It certainly wasn't on mine, but I'm still kind of glad I played it. Let me know what you think of this, or those other kind of like games that are kind of in the middle of the road. You know, those 7 out of 10 games, stuff like that. Like, let's talk about this down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video though, maybe it helped you out one way or the other, clicking the like button's all you gotta do. It really helps us out. We would appreciate that. And you can find me on social media or on YouTube, Jake Baldino, if you want to see more. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.